All right, well, let's take something concrete, and literally concrete. Your colleagues were saying all of last week that the coalition government was wrong to have dropped Labour's Building for the Future programme, the building programme for schools, at £55 billion. That was the price attached to that programme. Would Labour, if it came into power next year, reintroduce that programme with the £55 billion ticket?
Well, Trevor, look, schools are just the latest thing to crumble in Tory Britain. And of course, Labour governments build schools. I want to see that happen. You will understand I'm not going to give you specific capital allocation programmes before I know the baseline that any government would inherit. And of course, we've got a number of fiscal events that we will have before we get to a likely
Can I just ask you to hang on for a second? You know enough and you've decided enough to tell us that the Tories were wrong to drop it, but you don't know enough and you're not certain enough to know that you wouldn't reintroduce it. I mean, either they were wrong and you would do the right thing, or they weren't wrong. Which is it?
No, Trevor, the fact is that was a programme that would have rebuilt every secondary school in this country by 2020. So when you have schools falling down, it's reasonable to point out the government have some responsibility there. What you can do in terms of funding that in future depends on your economic position. This economy we've had for 13 years has fared far worse than it did under the last Labour government. Under that government, growth was stronger. There was more money, therefore, to spend on the public services, so you could make a very clear pledge like that. Getting back to that is what we want to return to. We do have specific plans where we say we'll do things differently. I mean, for instance, taxing private education in a different way, or scrapping the allowances that currently exist for people who earn money from private equity, or scrapping the non-DOMS regime, the super tax regime, and we make clear where we'd spend that money. But the big picture, whether it is schools, the NHS, the prison system, the criminal justice system, the economy's got to work better to make those pledges. Hence our industrial strategy and our plans
those
in my area.
Those extra tax promises, you're talking hundreds of millions rather than the billions. OK, let me ask a pretty straightforward one. Would you commit to building more new schools and repairing more schools than the current government has committed?
Trevor, I'll have to give you the same answer. Of course, I want to be able to do that. Of course, I look to previous Labour governments that have been able to do things like that. But if we have an economy, whatever the recent revisions from the ONS about our performance since the pandemic, the fact is this has been 13 years of poor economic performance, and that limits the kind of policies and aspirations you've got. Until you're fixing the economy, it will be more difficult.